I'm heading to the Sewing Expo in Dallas, and while I'm there, I'm planning to meet some old friends for dinner, which is a perfect excuse to sew a new dress. But there's a lot going on between now and then, and it's only a few weeks away. Can I sew this new look shift dress in 2 hours or less? I don't know. Let's find out together. Hi, I'm Tony, and this is So Lounge. Now, the pattern in question is New Look 6095. I'm going to be making view B, which is just the very basic shift dress. It has angled front bust darts and center back zipper, and that's kind of it. You're done. Now, I bought this last year. It's been hanging out in my pattern cabinet for a while, but when I got ready to go to Louisville for the Palmer Pletch fit training, I decided I was going to take this pattern because they said you could use any pattern for it, not just Palmer Pletch patterns. And this is one of those dresses that, it's going to be super comfortable once I get the fit right. So that's why it made the cut. Now, the interesting thing is I am a size 14 in a commercial pattern using the Palmer Pletch method. And my adjustments are very uniform across my body. I'm a half inch bigger than the actual pattern sizes wherever there needs adjustment. This pattern is all ready to go. Now I've got my fabric cut out and we're gonna move on to the next step. Part of the process when you do the Palmer Pletch tissue fitting method is to cut it out in fabric, mark everything, and then pin it to try it on and make sure all of the darts are in the right place, that you don't need any extra in the seam because the fabric is going to change the fit just slightly compared to the tissue. So I have done that. That's why it looks kind of funny because the darts are to the outside and the side seams are an inch, which is also part of the method in case I need to let it out at any point in the future. And then the back is all pinned up to be adjusted. It is pinned at 5/8 of an inch in the back. I will put the zipper in there. And that's always the hardest part about fitting yourself. Thankfully, my friend Jen called up this morning and said, "Hey, can I stop by?" And I said, "Yes, because you need to pin me into this dress." So now that I know that the dress fits, I'm going to head back to the sewing table, get this all unpinned. All right, before I start the clock, I'm going to take a quick peek at the pattern instructions to see if there's anything weird that I need to know about that's not straightforward. One thing to note is that if you are making one of the different versions that has the band on the bottom, or A or C both have bands on the bottom, check the length first and determine how long you want to make it before you start sewing. Now, I'm making B, so I do not have that problem. I'm just doing a regular hem, and I can adjust that to the length I want at the end of this whole process. So first things first, I'm going to do some stay stitching around the neckline to hold that in place so it does not stretch out in the sewing process before we attach that facing. And then I am going to pin and sew in my bust darts. And let's start the clock. Let's start with 15 and see if I can get those items done. 4 darts, stay stitching on 3 pieces, and we'll see if I can do that in 15 minutes. So stay stitching is always one of those fiddly kind of steps that you probably wonder if you really need to do it when you start sewing. And the answer is yes, because if you don't, when you want to go and attach your facing, if you've handled this a lot, then you're going to regret it, as the neckline will probably have stretched out by that point in time. So if you're not familiar with stay stitching, you sew from the shoulder towards the center front on the front piece on each side. So you don't just keep going. You stop at the center front and then pull out these threads, sew it from the other side, from the shoulder down to the neckline, flipping over my pattern piece. And then I'm just going to repeat this process on the back from the shoulder to the center back neck. One other thing, stay stitching is done inside of the seam line. So I am stitching this at 1/4 of an inch from the raw edge, which means I'm just lining it up with my presser foot and just stitching along. It never takes quite as long as you think it will, so it's always worth it to just do that. Now, this is a challenge because the fabric is light and I don't have any dark colored marking pins that I would risk with my fabric. So I have these marked, but this is going to take a second to be able to see these and get these all pinned up. So I do have the double-ended fisheye darts in the back. to switch glasses for this process. Oh, that's better. Now, I was talking to my friend Debbie the other day, and she is a Palmer Pletch classmate, although we did not take the classes together. We met after the fact. And she was telling me that the way she sews these double ended darts, or fisheye darts, as you would like to call them, is that she starts in the middle and then works her way out to each point, which I have never heard of. I usually start at one end and go down to the other. And I always have mixed results. So I'm going to try that, Debbie's technique, and see how that works. But let me get everything pinned into place first so that then I can just sew all the darts in one fell swoop. Okay, the darts are done. Those look good. I'm going to tie them off once I head over to the ironing board and press those darts into place. Let's try these fisheye darts and see. I think I have to go draw this line in because I can't see it at all. So you might think this is a little bit crazy to come back and do this step after I've already done it once, even though I didn't do a great job. You may think it's a little crazy to go back and do this after I've already marked it, but I know how well this fits with the darts pinned in the right place. And it just looks perfect across my lower back with the sway back adjustment, which is crazy because most of the time things don't fit perfectly through there. And I just want to make sure that these darts are in the right place. Timer going again. 15 more minutes. Let's see if I can get these last two darts sewn in 15 minutes. I think that should happen. Hopefully I'll make a little bit more progress than just getting these darts sewn. Okay, so we're gonna try this new method of Debbie's new to me method and see how this works. I'm gonna start at the middle, work out towards each end. I did a pretty good job. Okay, one side done. Let's move on to the other one. My iron is set for cotton, which is this fabric is 100% cotton. If you like the print, I got this fabric in Louisville as well from Louisville Fiber Company. They had some really fun cotton prints, and I love a good print, you know me. I do have my ham under here to get these darts just pressed. All right, so the front is pressed. I'm not happy with this iron. It keeps spitting up on everything, and it's on medium steam, so that should not be happening. Next, I'm going to move on to the back. I did grab my pressing sleeve for the back darts since they are longer and it's going to be a little bit different. So usually for the back darts, they go towards, I'd be lying if I told you. I don't remember. I'm going to press them towards the outside. I hope that's the direction they're supposed to go in. I do not remember. One of the things that I see as a benefit to sewing them in the middle is that there's the seam isn't quite as tight, or the stitch line isn't quite as tight because it's not one continuous thing. That I don't think you'd need to clip the dart. I am not going to clip the dart in case this is a little too tight and I need to let it out, because once it's clipped, it is done. I usually don't clip the center back darts just because of that reason. I'm always a little apprehensive. So I've gone back and forth on this, and it's really my goal on this channel to present a realistic expectation for sewing. And that's why I am finishing this video, but it's been over a month since I started filming it. So initially, when I stopped recording, I thought I would pick up again that weekend and get this video made. But if you haven't been following along on my community posts, Grandma got sick 4th of July weekend and hospitalized. And, there was a skilled nursing stay, another hospitalization, and then she passed away on July 19th. So I have not been in here since then. And I just really haven't had the heart to get back into sewing until now. And so since I started making this video, I got about 30 minutes sewn on this dress, and I had to make the decision if I continued to pretend like that was all the same video, or if I inserted this break to let you know that Sometimes life gets in the way. Things come up that we have absolutely no control of, despite our best intentions. And, you know, it's okay to let projects sit for a while. And this has definitely sat for a while because I checked the filming date on the previous segment and it was June 30th. It's been a while. And I can say that I'm feeling ready to get this dress finished. The urgency of the sewing expo has passed because that was the first weekend of August. Obviously, I did not wear my dress to dinner with my friends, but I am going to dinner with my friends tomorrow night. And so I thought, why not make a new dress and finish this project, finish this video, and share that experience with you? So without further ado, I'm going to set my timer for 30 minutes and get back to sewing. I got the front and back sewn together at the shoulders with no problem. I had to make a tiny dart in the shoulder on the back shoulder because I had added some space for it to fit over my shoulder blade doing the tissue fitting method, but that worked out okay. Now, the problem is that the facings are not lining up perfectly right at the neckline and the armhole. And even though I'm trying to put a tiny dart in there, I'm needing to rethink the way that I handle this with facings. So what I did was I just traced off the facings and then I kind of adjusted them against the adjusted pattern. I traced them onto tissue paper and then I made the adjustments on the tissue to match the pattern, but obviously I didn't do a great job. At this point, it's all cut and these facings are all put together beautifully. So I am not going to go back and redo that part of it. I'm just like rusty. I'm making stupid mistakes and it's taken me 15 minutes to get to this point. And I am not sure we're going to be able to do this in a timely manner as I originally had anticipated, but I'm going to start by matching this seam along the neckline so that I know that lines up, and then I will go put the dart in and fit the rest of this in here. Okay, that looks much better on the neckline. Before it was like almost a quarter of an inch difference. And I do have a tiny little dart here on the shoulder, but that's fine. And then, oh, look, it matched up on the arm. So, okay, that side's looking good. Okay, let me see the other side. All right, so that's done. Got like 9 minutes left before we hit 1 hour sewing. This one's okay. It's not as good as the other one, but you know what? It's good enough for today. We've got 7 more minutes. I'm going to just do these side seams real quick and get them finished. If you're wondering, I'm just using a 3-thread overlock to finish these seams. It's just going to keep things neat and tidy and help this whole process. All right, so those are done. Let's head back to the sewing machine. I'm going to work on getting that neck facing attached to my dress. This is the part that's always the challenge because I have to wrap my head around how I'm going to do this and how things get pulled through. I know that it's just going to be pulled through at the shoulder seams because we're not connecting those, but it's still not dropped it. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to get my shoulder seams matched up, which hopefully is okay. And then I'll go around and match the front um, piece to this neckline, which hopefully has not stretched out. Oh, good. It does not look like it's stretched out. So yay, I am winning when it comes to that. If you don't think you need to stay stitch, this is when you find out. I did stay stitch though, so we did that. We did that step because I've done this too many times where I have screwed up and made stretched out my neckline and then nothing fits. So, okay. So I'm going to just pin the center backs to the facing. It's a little tiny bit shorter, but I'm not going to stress because that is going to go to the inside and then the zipper will be where it's supposed to be. Trying to see. Almost at 30 minutes. So that timer is going to go off any second now. I'm going to finish getting this pinned. We will be moving into hour 2 of this project and see if we can pick up some time. So I've got everything all pinned together. I double checked the instructions to see if there was an order, and it said to sew the neckline first, then the armholes. So that is what I'm going to do. You can get this all situated. And oh, I need to restart the timer for another 30 minutes. And back to sewing. So I decided to double check the pattern instructions to see if they had a definition for layering, and they do. So it's not just trimming the seam allowance in layers, it is also layering the enclosed seams, trimming the corners, clipping the inner curves, and notching the outer curves. So, um, I don't know why I can't find that in any book anywhere, but that is what the pattern instructions say. So I'm going to start with the grading of the seams to make them smaller, and then I will clip these curves and notch the corners and in preparation for the understitching. And now comes the stitching, understitching. So I'm going to stitch this from the right side. And basically what I'm doing is flipping the seam allowance over towards the facing and then kind of rolled down off the hill. Okay, so I'm basically just turning the seam allowance to the facing and then stitching from the right side. Do my best. I'm also going to move my needle over um, and line up the center, this seam with the center of my presser foot to kind of help that process. Okay, so it says understitch as far as possible because you're not going to be able to get into these tighter spots. So that looks okay. Looks like I caught everything that needed to be caught, so that's good. I'm gonna move around to the other side. 30 more minutes. So now we've got 30 minutes left and we'll see how much I can get done. It's all attached. Got some loose threads here and there. I'm gonna kind of catch those while I can. And then it says to pull the front to the back through the shoulders. So that's the back. I just take the whole end and pull it through. Fingers crossed this works. I haven't done this before. Well, that actually doesn't look too bad. It does need a press for sure. Okay, let's grab the other one. Pull it through. All right, okay, so I'm gonna go head to the iron and press this all into place, and then I'm going to press open my zipper tape and get ready to put in my invisible zipper because that is gonna be the next step. Restarted the timer into the last 30 minutes at this point. I'm just giving this a quick press. Usually when I sew facings, I do this part before I do the understitching, but I didn't this time because of the way that this facing was done. So it may not look quite as good as normal, but I think it'll be okay. This is what we have so far. Obviously, it'll look better once the side seams are put together, but I am going to focus on getting the zipper in. I have a pink zipper. That's what I could find. It's these days it's not quite as easy to run down to the local fabric store and get whatever you need. So I had to dig through my stash and hope for the best. Okay, so I'm just running my iron next to my zipper coil to kind of help it stand up a little bit. That helps it feed into my invisible zipper foot. So I think I'm going to press this inner back seam at 5/8 of an inch so I know where I need to line up my zipper. And that's going to help me a little bit. So I remembered that my invisible zipper skills are not quite as awesome as they used to be, namely because I have a much harder time seeing now. And lately, my vision and my glasses have just been really seriously off. So while I am going to the eye doctor in a week, um, I don't want to do this more than once. So what I have decided to do is use my I think this is seam tape. I don't remember what it's called. It's basically sticky on one side and then you peel it off and then you stick your zipper to it. I'm going to do that to make this a little bit easier on myself and to avoid disaster. So I have my seam pressed in of where I need to put it. So I'm going to just line that up. All right. So I've got the zipper stuck down and I'm hoping this works the first time. So let me just get started. It looks like it's where it's supposed to be. So um, let's do the other side. All right, so I just got my zipper sewn in and I was trying to get it up, and apparently I caught the teeth like on that second side I just sewed. So I need to just rip that out real quick and then go sew that back in the right spot. Yes, everything matches up. Yay! Zipper is in. I need to finish the bottom of that seam. I need to give everything a quick press and get those facings back where they need to be because they got flipped up while we did all this sewing. While I've been sitting here fiddle faddling with this zipper and this facing, I realized that when I did my understitching to the back piece, I stitched it on the right side and not on the facing side. So since I just caught this when I was folding under the facing at the zipper, I'm just going to rip this out real quick and go back and fix that. I got it right everywhere else, just not the back on one side. So this is going to take a few minutes. I just wanted to share my mistake with you since I just figured it out because, sometimes that happens, especially when you haven't been on your sewing game for a while. I find that I sew a lot better when I sew regularly. So if you're having struggles because you keep stopping and starting and a month and a few weeks pass between your projects. Uh, don't feel bad. You're in good company. We'll be hanging out together. I also think it's going to be easier to sew this understitching once the facing is on the right side, and not trying to sew it and then still flip it. But we shall see. Now I'm going to flip this back to the right side. Let me pull out this extra thread on the underside. Flip this to the right side where it's supposed to be, understitched on the facing side, not the outside of the fabric. Oh, I gotta change my zipper foot from my regular presser foot. It's a process. It's all a process. Now that is fixed. That will not drive me crazy because it's where it's supposed to be. My facing and should look matched to the other side the correct way. Yes. So I was like, what happened? Did I sew that seam wrong? No, I sewed the understitching wrong. Thankfully. Thankfully it was not the seam because that would have been a big pain to go back and have to fix, but this is not too bad. Does that ever happen to you where you plan a project and you think like it's going to take me X amount of time to get this done and then inevitably it takes longer? I never think about how long it takes for seam finishes. So this entire dress process has been a complete comedy of errors because I was filming and then my camera completely died and then my mics died. And then I realized that, you know, I still have a problem with facings. I used to have this problem in college when I'd make my own patterns that I forgot to match them up. And the facing on the front of my dress is about mm, half an inch longer than the facing on the back. And I have no idea how that happened. I don't know if I didn't trace them off right or if I just arbitrarily made the size of the back. But once again, I didn't match them up at the sides to make sure they were the same size. And this is a common problem I had with facings back in college. So the instructions say to flip the facings up and stitch the facing first, but because my facings aren't the same size, that's not gonna work. So I'm just gonna put the side seams together at the facings. This is not the way I'm supposed to do this, but I don't really have any other choices at this point in time. And, sometimes mistakes happen. You know, it happens to the best of us. If you've been feeling like you just keep screwing things up, and even though you stop and take a break and, rest, so it's not exhaustion that's doing it, um, stuff happens and it's okay. It's gonna be fine. My dress will get finished eventually. And this is really like the last snafu in the whole thing. So I'm just gonna sew this at 5/8 of an inch. And now I don't know if I should do it as a basting stitch so then I don't have to rip out the whole thing if 5/8 isn't enough wiggle room for the weight gain. Let me just hold it up and see. I think it'll be okay. Okay, I'm just gonna stitch it at 5/8. And if the dress doesn't fit, it just doesn't fit, and we'll just move on with our lives, and I won't wear it to dinner tomorrow. That's kind of where I'm feeling right now. I've messed around with this dress a lot, and now I can't see. Switch glasses. Um, I messed around with this dress a lot, and this has taken a very long time. So let me just finish this, and then we can move on to the hem and go on with our lives. Oh. Now my bobbin ran out because that's how this is going. Okay. I would stop, but I'm almost done with the side seams. And at that point, then all I have to do is press the hem and then I have to hand sew that. So I don't know that that's going to happen today necessarily, but at least I can get that done. So, all right, it is done mostly. Like I said, there's still some hand sewing. So it's put together mostly. One thing I realize is that I do need to take it out the full inch through here. Um, it's it's a little bit too big, especially in the armhole. You can kind of see how it's kind of gapy. It definitely needs to come in more there. Uh, I think that and it kind of has these like little hip bags on it. I think because it needs to just be sewn at the 1 inch mark. So yay, I didn't gain that much weight, or that this dress has enough ease in it that it's forgiving. There's something funky happening with these bust darts. But the good news about taking out the side seams to resew them is that then I can fix the bust darts because, the facings, because of the way the facings are sewn in, because they did not match, I just have to take out the side seam and I have full access to the bust darts. So not horrible, but still nowhere near being done at this point due to all of the errors and, you know, stuff. So the back does look okay. I'm happy with the way the zipper turned out. The fisheye darts turned out well. And I do have to fix this top piece. So that's why it's kind of floppy up there because I haven't sewn it together or put in the hook and eye, which I will probably do because I cut the zipper too short. Just add it to the list of things that are happening. I'm going to press up the hem 1.25 inches, that's the allowance, so it's, like, right above the knee, which I think looks cute. I particularly like that my aqua pumps, which if you can't see them, they look very cute with this dress, and so I will be wearing those tomorrow, but I think there's enough time to get this finished before I go to dinner tomorrow night, and if you're wondering how long this has taken to where we are now, I hit the 2-hour mark right when I finished putting in the zipper, but before I realized I had to rip out a little bit of it and then resew it. So that was the 2-hour mark. Since then, it's probably been another 45 minutes. And now I have realized that I need to redo the side seams and the bust darts they're just not in the right place. I'm not sure what's happening. At this point, I mean, I've done the best I could. It just is getting back into the swing of things and making it work as best as I can. The dress is finally finished. I did get it done in time to wear with my friends, but I didn't take any pictures because I'm not happy with the way it turned out. Now, it took way longer than an hour to get it finished, and I'll go into why in just a second. But let's start with what worked with this dress. The hem looks very nice. I'm very happy with the hem. I ended up doing it at 1.5 inches instead of 1.25 inches. I used my blind hem stitch and it came out very, very nicely. That's it. That's the only thing I like about this dress. Let's talk about the fit issues. So first of all, this was fitted using the tissue fit method in my class that I took back in March, and it doesn't work for a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't think when I fitted it, or when I tried it on, that the shoulders and that this neckline was where it is supposed to be when you actually wear it. I think it was pushed over farther, which changed the whole fit of the dress. So now that when it's actually where it's supposed to be, this whole part doesn't fit because there's way too much ease in this pattern with the additional adjustments. So I don't think I needed a shoulder adjustment back here, adding an extra 1/2 inch. I think that would have been fine because you can see how it kind of gapes here at the shoulder. It's too big. And I think that if I would have left it alone, it probably would have fit a lot better just based on the way the dress is designed. Same goes for the front. There is a lot of extra ease here in this bust area that I don't think I needed to do a bust adjustment. But because the pattern wasn't placed correctly when I was doing the tissue fitting, that threw everything else off. So most obviously, this bust dart is over here. And you can see that it's not where it's supposed to be. I went back to my tissue pattern to see if I could figure out where the dart went, and I realized I didn't mark the apex of my bust on the pattern. So I'm out of luck. I just re-sewed it back the way it was. But then meanwhile, there is a lot of extra ease in this garment, which is making the front look like one type of dress and the back look like a very fitted type of dress. Now, I like the way the back looks. However, it doesn't go with the front. And then I think it was taken in a little too much at the waist, which now means I have these funky little saddlebags on the side of my skirt, which I do not like. My hips do not fit there. The seam allowance looks weird. And the 1 inch seam allowance really did not come in handy at all. I ended up sewing it at 1 inch to give me the fit that I thought I needed. The seams were too big and they were bunching and causing problems with the side seam, making it look worse than it does now. And so I went back in and cut it down with the serger. So this is serge seams, and you can see that they're still not lying flat. There's still this weird extra ease and lumpiness over the hips. So all in all, I would say this dress is like a D. The hem looks good, but I would not get a great grade for this. I think that I've got a lot of things to think about moving forward with the tissue fitting method and ways to prevent these errors from happening in the first place. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna work on. If you've enjoyed this video, I've got another one coming up next. You're gonna love it. You're gonna be totally inspired, and I'll see you over there.